People rarely recognize greatness when it isn't loud, rich, or angry. What happens when someone everyone overlooked turns out to be someone no one can afford to ignore? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this one. The man nobody noticed sat in the booth closest to the kitchen, not by choice, but because that's where they told him to go. Aaron Mitchell didn't flinch. He didn't frown. And he didn't correct the hostess when she barely looked up from her phone and gestured vaguely to the back corner, saying, "You can sit there, if you're just one." No menus. No water. No smile. He just nodded, walked there silently, and sat down. There was a calm to Aaron that came from years of having to stay calm when everything else was chaos. A quiet presence. Broad shoulders. A strong jawline with a few days' worth of stubble, and a duffel bag beside his feet, covered in dust from the Greyhound station. His boots were worn. His coat had seen better days. But his eyes, those eyes, were sharp, focused, patient. He didn't expect much, and that's what he got. He'd been there for almost 50 minutes. He counted not because he was impatient, but because in the Army, time mattered. You knew when chow was late. You knew when someone forgot protocol. You knew how long a man could wait before hunger turned to irritation, and irritation turned to action. But Aaron wasn't irritated. Not yet. Instead, he watched. Not in a creepy way, but in a trained, methodical manner. 2 families had come in after him and were already halfway through their meals. A group of 4 women in business attire sat near the front. They'd walked in 20 minutes later and already had a second round of iced teas and appetizers. The server laughed at their jokes. The manager stopped by to ask about their salads. And Aaron? Nothing. No one came. No one checked in, not even a glance. If someone did look his way, it was with suspicion, like he was a drifter or worse, someone trying to get warm without paying. Like he didn't belong. But he did. He belonged more than any of them. Behind the counter, Linda Cartwright, the manager, leaned against the soda machine, tapping her nails against a plastic cup, annoyed that her staff seemed too busy to check her texts, but not too busy to flirt with table 3. She saw Aaron when he came in, clocked him instantly. Worn boots, tired coat, that duffel bag. A red flag if she ever saw one. She whispered something to the hostess as he passed, something like, "Keep an eye on that one. He's probably just here to use the bathroom." Then she went back to calculating inventory and gossiping with Kelly, the youngest waitress on shift. "Why does he just sit there?" Linda said, pulling her mouth into a smirk. "You think he's waiting on someone?" Kelly glanced over. "I don't know. Maybe." "Well, he can wait all he wants. We're not a shelter. I'm not comping meals for someone who walks in like he just crawled off a bus from a war zone." Kelly's hand froze over the drink tray. Her face tightened. Maybe he did. Linda gave her a look. One of those tight managerial stares that said, "Don't get soft on me." Then he should go to the VA or wherever they feed those people. Kelly didn't say anything after that. Alan shifted slightly, stretching his back. He'd slept upright for the past 3 nights. Bus stations, waiting rooms, depot benches. Coming home wasn't easy. Coming back to nothing, that was harder. He glanced at his watch. 11:57. It was supposed to be noon. That's when he said he'd arrive. Aaron hadn't seen Colonel Thomas Reyes since the last day in Kandahar, when dust choked the air and Reyes pulled him aside and said, "When you get home, call me. No matter what, just call me." But Aaron never did. Too much pride. Too many unanswered questions. Too many sleepless nights wondering if he even deserved to ask for help. Now, almost 2 years later, Reyes had tracked him down. Said he owed Aaron a debt. Said he needed to meet. Said he was driving in from 3 hours away and would find him wherever he was. So Aaron told him, "This diner, the one next to the motel where the hot water barely worked, and he didn't expect anything. But deep down, a small part of him hoped maybe something good was about to happen. Linda's voice barked across the kitchen window. "Can someone tell me why the guy in booth 6 is still just sitting there? What is he, meditating?" "Kelly, that was your section, right?" Kelly winced. I thought someone else had him." "Oh, please," Linda snapped. "No one's had him because no one wants to deal with it. We're not in the business of serving charity cases. Get him a water and a menu so we don't get hit with a bad review." As Kelly walked over slowly, Erin looked up. Her eyes met his, just for a second. Then she hesitated. Because those eyes didn't beg, they didn't ask for pity. They reminded her of something her brother once said, after coming home from his 3rd tour. "Sometimes we come back with less than we left, but it's not always visible." Kelly placed the menu gently. "Sorry for the wait, sir. Can I get you anything to drink?" Erin smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just water, thank you." He didn't look angry. Tired. Kelly nodded and rushed off. At the front, Linda watched it all with narrowed eyes. "This better not be a stunt," she muttered. "The last thing I need is some viral clip of me serving a freeloader and everyone calling me heartless." Then the bell over the door chimed, and everything changed. A man in a tailored coat, silver hair, and a military bearing stepped in like he owned the place. And, in a way, he did. Because respect followed him wherever he walked. Colonel Reyes scanned the room with a surgeon's precision. His eyes locked on Erin, and the room went quiet, not because anyone knew what was about to happen, but because, for the first time all morning, the invisible man wasn't invisible anymore. Colonel Thomas Reyes didn't walk like a man in retirement. He walked like a man who still carried command in his back pocket, who still ran morning drills in his sleep, who still evaluated every person in the room in under 5 seconds. And right now, every second counted. His boots echoed against the cheap tile floor. The fluorescent lights caught the bars on the jacket he never fully let go of, a dark navy wool coat with a single army insignia on the collar, not full dress, but enough to draw attention. His posture, though not rigid, announced a kind of presence that shifted the atmosphere in the room. Linda noticed it first. She looked up from her post behind the counter, her phone still in her hand mid-text. Her expression snapped into the customer service smile she wore like a thin plastic mask. "Good afternoon, sir," she said automatically. "Table for one?" Reyes didn't even glance at her. He already saw Erin in the back. He didn't need to be told where he was. Erin hadn't moved, but something in his face changed, just slightly, as Reyes approached. The two men stared at each other for half a second. That was all it took. No handshakes, no salute, just a faint nod. "You look like hell," Reyes said plainly. Erin chuckled once, low and dry. "That's an improvement." Reyes slid into the opposite side of the booth like he'd done it 1,000 times in the desert. He didn't take off his coat, didn't order anything, just placed a black leather checkbook on the table. Linda's eyes narrowed. She leaned forward behind the counter. What the hell was that? Kelly watched, too, tray still in hand. Reyes opened the checkbook, pulled out a pen. "You know why I'm here." Erin sat back, arms crossed loosely. He didn't smile. "I told you I wasn't asking for anything. And I told you it's not about asking." Reyes clicked the pen once. "You saved 6 men that day. I signed off on it, wrote up the citations, shook hands at the funerals. You stayed behind the wire for a month. No debrief, no medal ceremony, not even a damn thank you. You didn't want recognition. Fine, but you're not walking away with nothing." Harry didn't answer right away. He stared at the napkin dispenser. "I'm not owed anything," he finally muttered. "Everyone did what they had to." Reyes looked at him, hard. "That kind of thinking is why this country forgets who holds it up." He tapped the checkbook. This isn't a gift, it's a repayment. For time, blood, dignity, hell, even silence. From the kitchen window, the line cook whispered, "That guy's military, huh?" "Clearly," Kelly murmured, but her gaze stayed on Aaron. Linda, meanwhile, squinted at the scene unfolding. A checkbook? Military talk. She didn't like mysteries in her restaurant. "I'll get their table cleared," she mumbled, and started storming toward the booth. "Good to see you still carry that fire," Reyes said as he filled out the figure. His handwriting was steady, deliberate. "How long you been back?" Aaron's shoulders shifted slightly. 17 months, give or take. "You staying with family?" Aaron shook his head. "No family left. Been working contract jobs. Factory in Toledo, security detail in Columbus. Nothing steady." And Reyes stopped writing. He looked at the man in front of him, the soldier he used to call his quietest wrecking ball. Haran never shouted, never showed off. But when things got bad, when teams fell apart, he was the one they sent in. Because he got the job done, and he never asked for applause. Reyes closed the checkbook and slid it across the table. "I want you to read that number. Then I want you to look at me and tell me you're going to walk away from this conversation and go back to living in cheap motels and job sites that treat you like a body, not a man." Aaron stared at the checkbook. He didn't touch it. Then Linda's voice cut through the tension. "Excuse me, gentlemen," she said, sugary and sharp. "Is there a problem here?" Reyes looked up, calm, polite, but with an edge that could slice glass. "No," he replied, "but you've had a problem here for about an hour." Linda blinked. I'm sorry. This man's been sitting here waiting for service while you've catered to everyone else in the room." "Well, he didn't order anything." "Because no one gave him the chance," Reyes said evenly. Kelly stood frozen a few feet away, her eyes darting between them. Betty rose slowly, not to intimidate, but to stand at full height. "You know his name?" Linda's mouth opened, then closed. "Didn't think so," Reyes said. "That's Staff Sergeant Aaron Mitchell, honorable discharge, Bronze Star recipient, 2 deployments in the Koringal, and someone I trust more than anyone who's ever worn a uniform under my command." By now, the diners had gone quiet. Forks paused in midair. Phones stopped recording TikToks and were now aimed at the booth. Aaron winced slightly. The spotlight made his skin crawl. Reyes placed a hand on the table. Not hard, just firm. "I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to remind you. We don't get to ignore people just because we think we've measured their worth in 10 seconds. Kelly stepped forward. "Sir, can I bring you both something?" "On me." Aaron finally looked up, met her eyes. "Just a coffee?" Reyes smiled at her, then turned back to Linda. "You run this place?" Linda nodded stiffly. "Then lead it better." He sat back down, quiet again. Linda didn't say anything. She turned and walked back, her heels tapping a little faster. Aaron opened the checkbook. His breath caught. It was more than he ever expected. Enough to give him space. Time. A beginning. He looked up at Reyes. "Why me?" Reyes didn't hesitate. "Because you never asked." Aaron let the silence stretch. Then he picked up the pen. Not to sign. To write. There was something about starting small. A name, a plan, a date. The waitress came back with the coffee. Her hand still trembled slightly. Aaron nodded at her, grateful. Then he looked around. For the first time since walking in, people were finally looking back. And this time they saw him. Aaron sat with both hands wrapped around the ceramic coffee mug, as if trying to absorb its warmth. It wasn't about the drink. It was about the moment. Stillness. Recognition. Something he hadn't tasted since the last patrol he led through the poppy fields of Kandahar. The checkbook lay closed beside him now. He hadn't pocketed it. He didn't guard it. He just left it there, plain and open like the truth Colonel Reyes had put on the table. The whispers started first. Did he say Bronze Star? Wait, is that guy famous or something? Staff Sergeant, what was it? Mitchell? Phones that had been held casually at angles were now gripped tighter, held lower, aimed a little more discreetly. Faces peered over the rims of coffee cups. The air in the diner shifted. Not loud, not chaotic, just different. The kind of quiet that wraps around curiosity. Kelly refilled the mug gently, careful not to spill a drop. "You okay?" she asked, just above a whisper. Aaron nodded. "Better than I was an hour ago." She gave a small, apologetic smile. "I should have served you sooner. I knew I should have." "You didn't ignore me," he said without bitterness. "That counts." She stood there a moment longer, watching him. "I have a brother. Came back from Ramadi 2 years ago. He doesn't talk much. You remind me of him." Naren raised his eyes. "Tell him he's not alone." She nodded and walked away, throat tight. Across the room, Linda had retreated behind the safety of the kitchen wall, but not before muttering complaints under her breath. She wasn't the kind to admit fault, and Reyes calling her out in front of a full house, she was already planning her damage control. "It didn't even look like a veteran," she snapped to the cook. "What's with that duffel bag? He looks like he walked out of a shelter. And now I'm the villain." The cook shrugged, uninterested. "You run the place, Linda. You set the tone." She didn't like that answer. Back at the booth, Reyes reached inside his coat and pulled out a small envelope. He placed it beside the checkbook without saying a word. Aaron arched a brow. "Another surprise?" "Your DD 214 was missing something," Reyes said. "This fixes it." Aaron hesitated, then opened the envelope. Inside, a copy of a long-overdue medal citation, a letter of commendation from the Secretary of the Army, and a card, handwritten. Aaron scanned the letter. His jaw tightened. "You had this the whole time?" Vraze shook his head. "No, I had to raise hell for it. You got buried in paperwork, protocol, and the fact that you didn't raise your hand for recognition. They assumed you wanted to disappear." Aaron closed the envelope and set it aside. "I did." "And now?" Aaron didn't answer. He didn't have to. Reyes could see it, the wheels turning, the quiet shift in posture, like a soldier who'd just spotted the path home. The front door opened again. This time it wasn't someone special, just a man in a suit, on his phone, talking too loud about markets and stocks. But even he paused mid-sentence when he spotted the older man in uniform, sitting across from someone with a soldier's jawline and a wall of quiet gravity around him. He lowered his phone slowly. Aaron noticed. He exhaled once. People looking now. "They should have been looking before," Reyes replied. "But better late than never." Another table sent over a slice of pie. "On the house," they said, even though it wasn't their house. A couple who'd kept to themselves all morning paid for the coffee quietly and slipped out with a polite nod. One of the businessmen near the window left a $20 bill folded beneath his untouched toast. None of them said much. They didn't need to. Aaron turned to the window. His reflection stared back. Older. Worn. But finally seen. "Why now?" he asked Reyes. "Why show up today?" Reyes leaned back, stretching his legs. "Because I saw your name on a list. Homeless assistance roster from a non-profit out in Sandusky. It shouldn't have been there. You earned better. You all did. And frankly, I got tired of pretending like one good ceremony every November makes up for how this country discards its warriors." Aaron looked at the checkbook again. "It's a lot of money." "Not enough," Reyes said. "But it's a start. You can rebuild. Or disappear again. Your choice." For a long time, Aaron didn't speak. Then he reached into his duffel and pulled out a dog-eared notebook. Inside, lists, addresses, drawings. Names of other veterans he'd stayed with in motels. One had frostbite from sleeping under a bridge in winter. One was turned away from the ER with a tooth infection that spread. Aaron slid it across the table. "If I take this money, I want to use it for something." Reyes looked down at the book, then up at Aaron. "That's what I hoped you'd say." Aaron gave a half smile. "The first real one all day." The cook stepped out from the back, wiping his hands on his apron. "Hey, I'm off in 20. If you guys need anything before I go, food's on me." Aaron nodded respectfully. "Appreciated." The cook hesitated. "You were 2nd Battalion, right?" Aaron tilted his head. "Yeah, my cousin was too. Died in your 9. Said the guys in your unit were the only reason he lasted as long as he did." Aaron's face didn't change, but his eyes softened. "What was his name?" "Lydius Vaughn." Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. "He was a good man." "Little things," the cook said quietly. Then he ducked back behind the line. Aaron opened the notebook again, flipping to a fresh page. He began to write. Of this, not of what he'd lost, but of what he'd do next. For the first time since coming home, he wasn't just surviving. He was starting. 3 months later, Aaron Mitchell walked through the same diner's door, not to sit in the back corner unacknowledged, but as someone invited. Someone expected. He wore a crisp button-down shirt, his shoulders still squared like the soldier he once was, but now there was something different in his stride. Purpose. Assurance. Not the kind that announces itself with volume, but the quiet kind that turns heads without asking to. The bells on the door jingled. This time, everyone looked up. The cook waved from behind the line. "There he is!" A few patrons clapped lightly. Not staged, not forced, just honest. Kelly was waiting by the register, her apron half on, half off. "You're late," she grinned. "Traffic," Aaron replied, then smirked. "Also, I took the long way. Figured I'd earned the view." She walked with him to a booth, his booth now, the same one that had once felt like a prison of invisibility. This time it was polished, reserved. A small stack of folders and a tablet sat on the table, paperwork, proposals, the tools of a man doing the work. Aaron slid in and opened the top folder. Veteran Housing Initiative, Phase 1. Across the top of the form, Mitchell Foundation for Reintegration. Reyes was already sitting across from him, sipping black coffee. His coat hung neatly beside him on the booth. The bars still shone, but his face had relaxed, as though he finally let himself age a little. "You're doing it," Reyes said, nodding at the paperwork. "But not alone," Aaron said. "Never again alone." He pulled out the notebook. Dog-eared, patched, loved. The names inside had grown, and beside each were notes. Housed, interview scheduled, VA appointment completed. Each name was someone no longer forgotten. "I met with the city council," Aaron added. "They're matching funds for transitional housing. Gave us 2 condemned properties to flip, and we got 3 volunteers from the local contractors union ready to start renovations." Reyes leaned back, visibly pleased. "That's more progress in 3 months than some orgs make in 3 years. Aaron shrugged. "I'm not here to play politician, just here to work." "And that's why people are following your lead," Reyes said. "You're not here for credit." "That's exactly why you'll deserve it." Linda Cartwright walked out from the kitchen, her posture stiffer than before, but her face carefully pleasant. "Coffee for you both?" she asked, tone clipped but respectful. Aaron looked up at her calmly. "Yes, please. And could you send over a pie to the guy in the red jacket near the window? He's a Marine, just out of surgery. Could use a little kindness today." Linda nodded and walked away without a word. There was a time when her silence had been laced with judgment. Today it carried something closer to humility. Kelly returned with fresh coffee. She set it down gently and lingered. "Big news," she said. "Remember Daniel, the guy with PTSD from Fort Carson? The one you got into that counseling program?" Aaron nodded. "Yeah, he called this morning. Got a job at the firehouse. Full time. He wanted me to tell you first." Aaron blinked once. A breath left him. "Thanks, Kellen. He said," she added, "that you helped him remember he wasn't broken, just bruised." Aaron looked down for a second, then back up. "That's all most of us are." Moraeus lifted his cup. "To the bruise, then." Herring tapped his mug to raises. "And the ones who won't let them stay that way." Outside, the sun caught the glass just right. A few neighborhood kids were setting up folding chairs near the park across the street. Someone was taping a banner to the fence. "Community Cookout," sponsored by the Mitchell Foundation. It wasn't just a celebration. It was a declaration that veterans like Aaron didn't fade into corners, that even the quietest among them could change the story, if someone just opened the page. Aaron packed his folder away, slid the checkbook Reyes had once given him into a side pocket. Not empty, but no longer the focus. "Are you ready for this?" Reyes asked, standing up. Aaron rose with him. "I think I was always ready, just forgot how to start." They stepped outside. The smell of grilled food drifted through the air. The sound of laughter, genuine, relaxed, rose from the park. A few of the guys from Aaron's housing initiative were already there. Some wore tool belts, others T-shirts from their new jobs. All of them had one thing in common. They were no longer invisible. The little boy ran past them holding a flag. Red, white, and blue fabric trailing behind like a cape. He skidded to a stop in front of Aaron. "Mr. Mitchell?" Aaron crouched slightly. "Hey there. My dad said you helped him get his leg fixed. He said now he can work again. And play ball with me." Aaron smiled. "That's great to hear. Can I be like you when I grow up?" Aaron looked at him closely, then glanced over at Reyes, who gave a subtle nod. "You can be better," Aaron said. "Start now." The boy beamed and ran off. Aaron stood still, watching the moment hold, then slowly exhale into memory. Reyes clapped him on the back. "You were never waiting on someone to save you, Aaron. You were waiting on the right reason to start saving others." Aaron nodded, the weight in his chest finally light enough to lift. The griddle. "I think I finally found it." And as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the street, Aaron Mitchell walked forward. Not out of the spotlight, but into it. Not alone, not unnoticed, and never invisible again.